week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is The Magic Mike Show, episode 328. Mr. Somich.
Huzzah.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I was trying to inject some energy into this to start things off. What a hell of a way to start a Monday, to start a week. It's nice starting a Monday morning hating the industry that you work in.
It was an interesting Monday, man. It was one of those you kind of wasn't expecting any news to break, and obviously we're talking about Medina Spirit, who unfortunately had a heart attack after working out this morning. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, but we're not gonna focus too much time on it before we kind of jump into the rest of the show, because I mean, honestly, we've talked about this ad nauseum. It feels like over the last 300 and change episodes that we've done this show about the need for change, and it's just kind of whether or not we've gotten to that tipping point yet where people give a shit enough to actually start injecting change in the industry. And, we've talked about it quite a bit where, look, the two parts of the industry that seem to be getting the raw end of the deal right now are the horses and the bettors, which are probably the two most important to keep the industry going. And at some point that kind of needs to change. And what happened today was absolutely awful and probably not necessary. And it's a damn shame, man. Yeah,
it really sucks. I haven't been, even though, as Aaron said, like, it's really, like, it sucks, but are you really that surprised? Well, no. But this is the most angry I've been about horse racing since they arrested Jorge Navarro. So, and they're on a similar vein there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing really more for us to say. Somber way to start it, but
I was texting with a friend this morning, and I'm like, I'm surprised it happened today, but it's not surprising, and that's really disappointing in general, right? Where it's like, it's just you should be shocked when something like this happens. But if someone had said a horse had a heart attack at Santa Anita, you can pick a trainer, and I'll lay you even money on whatever you pick. Guess who I'm picking, right? First choice. Yeah. And so it's like, it just sucks, and the snowball seemed to start rolling down the hill with Peter Miller leaving. And yeah, okay, there was the letter that he left because of XYZ reasons. But, I mean, there was smoke there that there was a lot more that was going to happen if he didn't choose to do that. And then you see that he's a trainer of record claiming at Oaklawn this week. So I have a feeling it was more that California said get out than it was Peter Miller wanting to get out. Your hope that this is the straw that breaks, I mean, Camel is probably not, it's like, the massive Trojan horse that is Bob Baffert at this point in California. And this is what ends, his ability to train there. But, he's already out at Churchill. He's already out in New York. Hopefully this is the last straw.
Yeah, hopefully. Let's switch to something positive. Detroit Lions. Yay.
They did. Actually, boo. I had the Vikings in teasers, so screw you, Detroit.
Sorry. So at halftime, they're up 20-6, and I start getting texts and congratulations from people, all meaning well. Please don't ever do that to me again. I started reading those. I looked at the text, and I just was like, no, stop, please. It's just like watching a train going down a hill without brakes. You're like, stop. And the fact they actually won, how shocked were you when that fourth quarter, the fourth down, last play of the game somehow was a touchdown? How shocked were you?
I mean, I could go on a pretty good Mike Zimmer rant and the defense that was played there. I actually
what was that?
I sent an intentional jinx text to Slim after he texted congratulations to you to try and get the Lions to lose that game. And I thought it worked perfectly. They figured out all you got to do is blitz Jared Goff in the second half. And they blitzed him relentlessly, and they couldn't move the ball at all. They get up points, and all of a sudden we're just going to play in a shell cover 2 and just allow these 12-13 yard passes, and then literally on the last play we're not going to guard the end zone line, we're guarding the end line 10 yards behind where you have to get the score. I mean, the fact that you have 8 defensive backs and you have one of 4 receivers who's wide open and you're blatantly pass interfering, there's a massive hole in the middle of the field too. So like, it just, I mean, mind-blowing defensive lapses there. And to give up 20 points in the quarter to the Lions is pretty pathetic as well in the second quarter. But we're not even going to start there anyway. But congratulations, Magic.
Thank you.
You have one win, and now you need to not get another one so you don't pass the Houston Texans or Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, see, here's the thing about that is that, like, especially when they look like they might go winless for the season, I was like, this is, of course, the year when there's no quarterback that, like, really screams to me, draft me. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is when we need a number one quarterback is when we finish number one, and yeah, there's no number one quarterback.
Now, did you see the Pittsburgh Wake Forest game on Saturday night? So Pickett, who's the quarterback for Pittsburgh, will be in the conversation for the number one overall pick. He's got an electric arm, very good on his feet. It reminds me of Josh Allen. That might be giving him a little bit too big of a compliment. He did the first fake slide I'd ever seen. So, like, if you go back and like Google fake slide Pickett, it's first off, it's going to like drive defenders nuts because you can see all the defenders backing up because they don't want to get a targeting penalty, they don't want to get a late hit flag. He fakes the slide and then jukes him and goes another 35 yards for like a 60-yard touchdown run. It is going to change how people handle the sliding thing because defensive backs are now going to be like, well, I got to kind of dive into him just to make sure. And so it was an absolute, mind bender there for the defense. But I think he's a little interesting out of Pittsburgh. We'll see.
I remember Peyton Manning was notorious for when he would start to slide, he would like leap. And he's making his motion. He'd make a very exaggerated motion because they had started, flagging guys for hitting the quarterbacks when they're starting to slide. He'd gain an extra 3 to 5 yards every play when he slid because the moment he starts making his movement, because he's 6'5", he's just stretching out and gaining extra ground before he's actually touching down. So it's kind of funny that happened.
Well, I think Dennis has a point here. I think the refs almost have to call the fake slide. It's just blowing a play dead. Because
that's true.
It really does put the defensive back in an impossible situation. If the guy does slide and he hits him, it's 15 yards. If he doesn't slide, he runs by him for 30 yards and a touchdown, and it's a terrible situation either way. So it's going to be really, really tough. But I love the Manning story. I mean, you think about Tom Brady and quarterback sneaks and how successful he has. You think about you think about Mahomes and how Mahomes will tiptoe down the sideline and then make that cut back when everyone thinks he's going out of bounds. All of these really cerebral quarterbacks have found ways to manipulate the run game to get a couple extra yards when it's really, really important. It's one of the kind of giveaways you can see when you see quarterbacks who are really smart. Oh, one more football thing. Did you see Cooper Kupp?
No.
Cooper Kupp, after the game, gave one of the best interviews I've ever seen. He literally broke down the play. So it was like a triple fire blitz with a nickel back blitzing. And the way he described it, you could just tell why he is good at football because you can hear him talk through exactly what he saw and how he got open for his touchdown. So if you want to hear someone, a wide receiver, explain like in real time what they were thinking through a play, which is a cornerback blitz and a 3-high safety look, it's really interesting to hear him talk through it. That
explains why Sean McVay loves him so much. Sean McVay is the same way. Bill Belichick's the same way, where you can ask him an obscure play. Now, that was a pivotal play, but you can ask those guys an obscure play from a game 3 years ago, and they'll tell you exactly what happened and what they were doing in that situation. It's otherworldly how good those guys are like that.
It's amazing. It's really cool to hear how they, like, when they can articulate it and to hear how they actually thought through and why they ran in certain spots, I think is really interesting. Jason, how many big-time QBs in the draft are bust? Ryan Russillo updates this list every year. It's literally almost 50-50. Like, if you're the top 15 pick, it's about 50-50, and there's no rhyme or reason what like, if you go first or 15th, there isn't any better of a chance that you're going to end up being a very good quarterback. It's literally 50-50 for the top first half of the draft.
Well, I just appreciate, it's nice when we get a quarterback. If we draft a quarterback, it's going to bust regardless. It's just the fall is a lot more fun when it's the number one overall pick as opposed to, 23rd. Well, look, I'm in Tua land right now, and you know how high I was on Tua originally. I'm like ecstatic that we got Tua. A year in, I'm like, damn, I wish we had Herbert or Burrow. Now you have that like little Tua magic creeping back up, and you're like, hold on a second, do we like Tua again? It's a roller coaster, man. Especially when you feel like you have the pieces around him to be a pretty darn good team. Well, if you want more football talk, tune in to Dudes Who Bet Sports, which will be on in an hour and 20 minutes on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/racingdudes. Sorry if you were not interested in football. We kind of went off on a tangent, but we got out of the way early. Mike, real quick, what's the best thing you saw this week?
I'll just use the football stuff we just used to keep the show moving. So Cooper Kupp's interview, make sure you check it out, and Pickett's fake slide. Both of them are really cool.
Perfect. I'm going to stick with football for mine, but I'm going to share it here real quick. Deion Sanders, I don't know if you knew this, is the head coach at Jackson State, the football team. Just had his first full season as the head coach. Jackson State went 11-1. Their only loss was to, I need to get rid of that, an 11-1 to a FBS team. And thank you. They ended ended up winning their first title in their conference since 2007. They held every opponent to fewer than 21 points, had 50,000, thank you, plus fans at 3 games, and they're going off to a big bowl. I mean, look at that. With Deion Sanders as their coach, just crushing it there at Jackson State.
I kind of love the retro sports stars coming back as coaches. Like you got Penny Hardaway at Memphis now. You got Deion Sanders down there at Jackson State. You're getting some of these players that were like pivotal in my teen years, rooting days, that are now coming in and coaching at some big time programs or smaller programs. It's fun to kind of see them jump behind the scenes and then take the coaching role and see what they can do with it.
All right, Mike, let's get into it. We're going to take a quick recap look at the 3 races at Aqueduct and then jump into Friday's late pick forward at Oaklawn. Riders up. All right, Mike, let's go back to Saturday real quick at Aqueduct. We'll start with the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes. We covered the late pick 4 sequence on the Magic Mike show, and it didn't pay all that well, and it came down to literally a nose deciding between the two of us who was going to cash this. It was pretty bang-bang, but Mo Donegal gets the job done over Zandon. I think every horse after that we can ignore. The Remsen, never really a great harbinger of things to come on the Kentucky Derby Trail. Let's focus on Mo Donegal and Zandon. What do you think about him?
Look, I kind of commented on this after the race, and I got some differing views on it. I don't think that Pletcher or Chad Brown have their best 2-year-olds into Derby to contender 3-year-olds that are going to run a mile and an eighth at Aqueduct this early in December, let alone this early in the campaign. If you look back at the, go to the. I love Wikipedia, by the way. If you're ever looking for like past stakes results, Wikipedia is great. The last time that Chad Brown had a winner was in 2014. Leave the Light On. I have no clue who that horse is. Pletcher's last one was Overanalyzed, 2012. There have been some good horses. I mean, you have Mohamed and Catholic Boy who have both won this race in the past, but they're for different trainers whose barns just are not nearly as big and not nearly as deep. They're also horses that really needed 2 turns. I mean, I think that's what this tells you more than anything is that, Mo Donegal and Zandon are going to be horses. They're going to want 2 turns. Clearly the best 2 horses so far that we've seen in New York going a mile and an eighth type of distance. I think they're definitely a threat in races that are, 2 turns up in New York. The problem is there's just not that many of them. I mean, a lot of the preps that you have at Belmont are those 1-turn long preps. And so you got to look to like, the Wood and things like that here at Aqueduct that you're going to get some of those 2-turn races for these horses. Probably the best we've seen in New York, but especially with Oaklawn Open right now and with Florida now open with a championship meet, this just isn't where the A-team is going. So these are 2 horses when they start to face the A-team, I'm going to fade. And like last year, I openly mocked the New York circuit, and that looked really smart. If you go back and look at all of the Triple Crown races, it was a good thing to leave all of those horses off your supers.
Yeah, it usually is. Mo Donegal is going down to Florida. His next target is the Fountain of Youth Stakes, which is a mile on the 16th. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, Gulfstream, is that they stop at the 16th pole if it's a mile on the 16th dirt race?
Yep, mile 16th is a short stretch, so I don't know if that's going to be the best spot for him.
Yeah, exactly. Zandon, I would assume Chad Brown brings him down. I don't mind Zandon. If I want one of these horses moving forward, it's probably him. Just his second career start, he was stretching out from a 6-furlong dirt sprint that he won at Belmont. And the fact that he didn't give up when he was being pressured and when, I don't know if you noticed, but the head-on especially, you see Irad just really throwing his reins in the horse's face. Irad had himself one hell of a weekend.
He had a weekend, man. And now he's got a month to think about
it. Yeah, but by the way, can we make it 30 weekends or something like that? And not 30. Like, this doesn't, because it's not going to matter to him at all. A month. This is the best month in the world to take off for him.
It really is. Like, even and isn't like they can run stakes races or something too. There's like all these different there's different subsets of the rules where they're allowed to be in certain spots. Because I think it was Pratt who was serving days, but weird mistakes. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the severity, and it might depend on the state. I know in California, if it's minor offenses, they're still allowed to race the stakes races. But I don't know what New York is like.
Irad had 2 minors and 1 major over the weekend, so he wouldn't have been out of the penalty box if this was hockey for the next day where he caused 2 problems again. That's how bad that first infraction was.
Let's take a look here at the Des Moselle Stakes, Grade 2 race going to mile and eighth on the dirt. Stop me if this sounds familiar. It's being won by a daughter of Curlin out of an AP Indy mare. Nest gets the job done a year after Malathat did it. Malathat used this race to eventually go on to win the Kentucky Oaks. Do you think Nest does the same?
No.
Boy, this was a slow finishing race.
Yeah, I mean, it almost looked it looked bad having boys go 1.125 miles, and then you saw the girls go over a second slower, and you're just like, "Ew." I mean, I think the opening half mile was 51 seconds in the Remsen. They went a little bit faster early here, but they went a lot slower late here. They went 15.3 for the opening half. Ended up stopping the clock at a minute 55. Look, these are just grinder races right now. And you know, you see these 2-turn races. It just is what it is. And these horses are better longer. I mean, if you look at Nest, debuts at 1.16 miles. It's not something you often see on dirt for a 2-year-old. And able to come back and you know, get jobs done at 1.125 miles. Look, I'm more interested in Nest going forward if I'm talking about someone who could win one of those big 2 races. If it's Kentucky Oaks and Kentucky Derby, and you give me the winner of the Remsen versus the winner of the Demoiselle, I'd say Nest is more likely to win the Kentucky Oaks than Mo Donegal is to win the Kentucky Derby. How about that?
Yes.
Put a positive spin on it.
The one horse I'll say watch out for is potentially to play is Magic Circle, because if you watch the replay of right about the 8th pole, when Manny Franco went left-handed, she stopped and veered way out. With it being basically she lost by a neck, she lost a lot of momentum there. I don't know if she loses or if she loses by more than a nose at the finish line there. And if they decide to take Magic Circle down to Florida, to Gulfstream, or if she stays here and tries to stay at 1 turn, this horse has got a lot of speed. And hell, if she gets a better pace setup than she did here, if she gets lone speed going 2 turns, I think she's pretty dangerous. And you might catch a price on her.
Yeah, I mean,
against lesser class. I guess I should say that. Against a similar class of horses.
she did. This is, you know, just fun fact. She actually did run the fastest 1/4 mile at any point during this race. And that was in 25 seconds flat. So.
And that was the opening quarter, wasn't it? So the race just got slower as it went on.
That was the fastest internal fraction of any horse, any personal internal fraction for any horse of the entire race. Okay, like, you know who ran the second one? Full Court Felicia at 25.06 was the second fastest, and that horse finished 7th or 6th. So not like I said, not the fastest race in the world, and you don't expect this race to be fast, and this is why, like, you almost don't want to take too much out of these. Don't get too high or too low on these horses. You can get too low if you want, but don't get too high on these horses because they're going 1.125 miles this early, or this as 2-year-olds for a reason. This is the only 1.125 race I can think of carded for 2-year-olds. Like it's not a distance these horses want yet. They're not quite physically developed enough and strong enough that they're going to look all that impressive doing this. You're not going to see that much passing later in the race, which is kind of what you saw with both of these. Once you got to the stretch, everyone was just kind of trying to suck wind and get to the wire, and that's what you saw here.
It was pretty rough. We'll move on. The Cigar Mile, if I can get the computer to go with me here. The Cigar Mile was the most exciting race. You had I thought a very well-matched field of 8 horses in here, older males. 3 and up, not older males, because you actually had 3-year-olds taking the top 2 spots there. American Revolution. Mike, I thought it was very impressive that this horse was able to do what he did going a 1-turn mile, because the way he runs and the way he finished this, I was like, this horse needs 1.125 miles like there's no tomorrow.
Todd Pletcher had a decent day, huh?
Yeah, not too bad. Nice little Todd Pletcher pick 3.
Not so shabby, and he also had the exacta here. Look, I was impressed with American Revolution. I think Following Sea might be my favorite horse in training right now. I'm not kidding. Like, I like the horse after the sprint. This was a hell of an effort from Following Sea too. I mean, Following Sea set the pace, took some pressure, got past, re-rallied, and made it close again. Like, it got a little kind of sneaky in the last 1/8 of a mile or so. So I thought Following Sea was really impressive. I thought American Revolution ran well here. And this is one of those where you kind of, man, Ginobili seems like 4-1 was a crazy like, it was just, that horse should have been 10-1 in this spot. I feel like this was just not the right spot for Ginobili to be running. I was surprised that Ginobili showed up in this spot. But I thought you actually got a really nice price on American Revolution. I mean, getting over the 5-2 morning line, I thought was almost a gift in that sense, even though I did like Following Sea a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we understood where the ceiling is for Ginobili, that when he's running against California horses, he's pretty good when he steps away from California. I mean, you could say the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, but first of all, he didn't face that many out-of-town horses, and the ones he did really weren't that great. So overall, other than Life is Good, who beat the pants off him. So.
And that was the key. We talked about that. Like, when we were all together, we were talking about the field, and it's just like, look, that's just a really weak field. And so there's just not much that he beat in that spot. And you know, this race, well, yes, it's a December 4th race at Aqueduct. It came back pretty deep. I mean, you could have, I think American Revolution and Following Sea could be stars next year. Actually, what kind of odds would you give me that Following Sea wins a graded stakes at multiple distances next year?
Oh, I think it's very likely because the next two races, the big races they're targeting is the Grade 1 Carter, which is 7 furlongs, and the Met Mile, which is 8.
Well, and Falling Sea might be the best sprinter in the world right now too. Like you could make an argument that at 6 he's better than anybody. There's some. We'll see Nashville. We'll talk about Nashville in a little bit. There's a couple horses I'm sure that will contest that, but there's a lot of 6 furlong and 7 furlong sprints up at Saratoga that Falling Sea would be awfully competitive in come August as a 4-year-old.
What do you think about Plainsman? We'll get out of here after that one, but I thought that Plainsman ran pretty well. He got into traffic trouble in the stretch. Manny rode him like he rode Tis the Law in the Kentucky Jockey Club and stuck him right behind a fading horse, and then he bumps and around, and then he claims foul. Manny, you were an idiot. You should have just got him clear. I think the horse has got a legit shot here if he gets clear, and I think that if you go to Fairgrounds or you go to Oaklawn Park for those older dirt route horses, I think he's going to fit in really well there.
Look, I think Plainsman, he is a good grinder, right? I don't know if he's one of those horses I would expect to win a race like this, but I think that he's a good 3rd or 4th place type horse in these spots. And that's kind of exactly what you saw here. I don't think Plainsman ever had a shot to beat Falling Sea or American Revolution, even with a cleaner trip. But I do think he outran his odds at 19-1, especially when you're looking at try and super payouts. I thought Olympiad, who ended up finishing 4th, was actually really interesting coming out of this. The race chart actually calls it Eclipse Heels in the race with Independence Hall. And so I did not see that when I was originally watching it. And so now looking at this and seeing that says Olympiad and Independence Hall clip heels inside or outside the 3/4 pole, I'm going to have to go back and watch the race. Because if that's true, that's a pretty darn good race there from Olympiad to be able to do that 3rd off the layoff. And Olympiad's one of those horses where we saw a ton of talent early, and then with long layoff, a ton of talent right off the layoff, a nice win, and then jumping right up into the Grade 1 level, which is not something that you necessarily expect from Bill Mott. And note that, again, Joel Rosario, who was injured the day before, left Plainsman to ride Olympiad, and when the Olympiad mount opens up, it's Irad Ortiz who picks it up. So the jockeys all believe there's a ton of talent in this horse as well. So that's another one that I'm going to keep an eye on, especially if I can get somewhere around a 10-1 price against fields like this. You're on mute, Magic.
Rosario left Following C, and that went to Velasquez, who shares the same jockey agent. So, yeah, it's interesting to see who steps in to pick up the pieces here. Let's move on, Mike. We can go ahead and talk now about the Oaklawn late pick 4 for Friday. What is that going to be? December 10th. This is the second time now in a week that I've been able to do a week span that I'm able to do an Oaklawn pick 4. So, very exciting here. Kicking off Friday's late pick 4 sequence at Oaklawn Park. Race 6 on the card. It's a 6 furlong allowance sprint for 3-year-old fillies. Just a field of 6 in here. So you got a very short prices. The shortest price is Abrogate number 3 at 2-1 for Asmussen and Ricardo. Your longest price is 6-1 on the outside. Number 6, Someone Said So. Where are you going on top?
So before I jump into it, first off, shout out to Oaklawn for having both their Friday and Saturday full cards out, and it's Monday.
Yes,
Love
bless
that.
you.
That makes everyone's life a lot easier who's currently doing this podcast. Secondly, this is a really interesting ticket structure sequence. So before we go into the actual tickets, I think it's important to at least discuss it. You've got Nashville in the 3rd leg, and Nashville's coming back in an $80,000 allowance. Clearly not the target. So you're going to have a let's call it B+ Nashville effort. Don't expect the A+ effort. There is other speed in there, but you kind of have to make a decision. Am I against or for Nashville? And if you are for Nashville, you can play a 50-cent ticket, play whatever denomination you want, but you cannot spread in any other leg. I'm talking like no going 40, not allowed, period, because you're diminishing the value too much around Nashville to do that. Unless you love like 2 other 20-1 shots, you're singling in those legs. Fine, hit the all button in the 4th one, but whatever. But like it has to be a wildly good opinion around Nashville to make it profitable. The other way to play is to play a shorter price ticket and not use Nashville, right? And so I considered playing a 50-cent ticket, not including Nashville, and it was going to be about $24. I ended up playing a $10 ticket where I'm going to single Nashville, because I really feel like those are the only 2 different ways that you can attack this sequence. Either you can play Nashville as a single, and if you want to play a 50-cent saver ticket without Nashville and it costs you $12, that's up to you. I don't like doing saver tickets, but that's something that you could do if you want to have a little more coverage in that 3rd leg. But for me here, I decided, look, I think Nashville's more talented than that field. We'll talk about the race in a second. So I ended up playing a $10 ticket. Because of that, I'm not going to go very deep in any leg. I'm happy to talk about more horses than the ones I use, but I'm going to start out with a single here. When I look through this race, I often talk about when I'm handicapping, it's pace. And specifically in this one, I saw a lot of pace. It seems like you're going to have multiple horses go to the lead. I think Northern Diamond, the 1 horse, wants the lead. I think you're going to see speed out of Takata, the 2 horse. Abrogate clearly is going to want to go to the lead, the 3. I think this just sets up like a dream for a Lil Totsi, who is second off a layoff, late 3-year-old season, ran huge last time out, ran really well in the Prioress too, the start before the layoff there in Saratoga. I don't see any reason why Little Totsi isn't going to get the pace set up and be able to try and go right by. So I'm going to start this thing out with a 3-1 single.
I'm going to reiterate that, other than to say it's Little Tootsie. There's a double O in there, but Little Tootsie. Dude, we saw this race exactly the same way. I can't say anything else. We can move on, really, unless there's another horse you want to talk about. Is there one horse here that concerns you?
The 6 horse. Someone said so. Look, I agree that the 3 is probably the second most likely winner in Abrogate, but I have no interest in going 3-5, a 2-1 and a 3-1 shot where I'm going to single Nashville. So to me, that just becomes a ticket structure issue there. So if I'm going to play a second horse, I'm going to shoot for a price. The 2 horses I considered were the 4 horse, Heartful of Soul, and the 6 horse, Someone Said So. Someone Said So ended up being the second pick. I feel like this horse has the ability to close. I think it's interesting that we went to the grade 2 Ravens Run after the grade 3 Dogwood. The horses run against some very good horses. Last time was absolutely blown out by the 3, but that was a 4 horse field, and they went 21-4, 44, and the 3 didn't really take all that much pressure in that race, and was able to just kind of open up on everybody. The third place horse came back to win. So I'm going to kind of draw a line through that last start and say that, look, if we can go back to like the race 4 back where you're coming off the pace a little bit, I think that the 6 horse has the setup to get it done. I wouldn't want any of the speed horses in here if I'm trying to find a price. I'd want to find someone coming off the pace and hope the race collapses, and it's not Little Tootsie that closes.
I'm going to agree with you. I think this is the one I'd be worried about. The last race, I don't know if you mentioned, but was also in the slop. That's the only time this horse has tried the slop. The horse, I think we can scratch the line off and say that maybe the slop was a big reason this horse didn't run very well, because it's the only time in her career really that she never got engaged, at least on the dirt. So I think that's the one, especially if you're looking for a price. Oh, Dennis says no. I bet Someone Said So last time out because the 3 was on the layoff and that horse ran awful. Well, Dennis, it was the slop, and we're hopefully not going to get slop this week.
And the horse did run awful. That's when you have to draw a line through it if you want to play that horse, right? And I think the 5 furlongs was a bad distance for the 6 horse, and the slop was probably not the best for the 6 horse. So hopefully the longer distance gives the 6 a little bit more time to close, and you've got a lot of speed in here that can hopefully fall apart late. And that's how the 6 wins the race.
Let's move on to the second leg of the Late Pick 4 Friday, Oaklawn Park. Race 7 on the card. It's a 1-mile dirt route for 3- and 4-year-old fillies, non-winners of one other than, who started for a claiming tag of $40,000 or less. Remember, at Oaklawn Park, 1-mile race means that they start and end at the 16th pole. So a lot of times you're going to want horses that have speed in here. Mike, I don't know if you're going to go with a speed horse on top here, but the 3-1 favorite is number 4, Leading West for Diodoro and Cohen. It seems like a short price to take when there's kind of wide open here.
Yeah, one of the reasons I ended up with the $5 ticket was this race. If I had spread here, I would include the 4, who I don't really like, and is 3-1, and I would include the 7, who I don't really like, and is 7-2. I have 2 prices in here, 2 horses that are over 7-2 at least. On top, I'm going to go to a speed horse. I'm going to go to the 6 horse Prioritization. This horse is just taking a step forward. Well, first off, let me start by saying I don't love a lot of the horses that have run a bunch in this race. A lot of them kind of stink. And so because of that, I'm going to take a horse that is a little bit of a new shooter. Prioritization's only run 4 times. Last time out was a maiden breaking score. It was at even money when drew the rail, which I don't love. But the second and the third place finishers from that race came back to win. And this horse absolutely aired that group. Went 24-3, 48-4, and was able to just open up going 1 mile and 70 yards. Scott Becker is a very good trainer, 33% overall. He's 1 for 4 so far at the meet with 2 of those horses in the money. And this is a $350,000 horse. Scott Becker does not get very many $350,000 horses, but he knows what to do when he does. And so I like the fact that this horse is consistently taking steps forward. If you look at the dirt races, we went from a 56 to a 72 to an 89 buyer. That 89 buyer, by the way, the best last out buyer and the best buyer in the entire field. Yet here we are, sitting at an 8-1 morning line. So I'm going to start with the 6 horse. I'm a little concerned that the 10 is the speed, and the 10 is coming out of sprint races. It could probably make the lead if the 10 really wants to make the lead. So a little concerned that we're not going to be able to wire the field, but I do think the 6 could sit a really nice trip right behind the 10, even if we give up the lead.
Boy, if you don't like the 6 to bet, you're going to want to like this horse moving forward. Chad Brown originally had this horse, and they spent $350,000 on him. They dumped him off at Ellis Park, and that's where Scott Becker got him. And he might not be a world-class horse like Clairvich Stables thought he was, but did him pretty closely, but ultimately that race at Hawthorne, the time was pretty slow. I'm not convinced like you are. I'm a little worried that he's not going to be the speed. So that's why I stayed away from him. I went 3 deep here. You went 2 deep. I'll talk about the 2 horses that we don't agree on, and then we can circle back to the one we do. I'm going to start off with my top pick being the number 3 Shofar for Jason Barkley. He's running first off the claim, and that's a big reason I went with this horse. First of all, Barkley runs him back protected, but Barkley claims him for an owner. They specifically targeted Oaklawn with this horse. They claimed him from a Churchill race where he battled every step of the way, lost by a half a length. I like that he's going to be showing up here protected with this race, with this meet in mind. So I went with this horse in that regard. Doesn't have the best back class in terms of, it took him a long time to get his maiden broken. He was kind of on turf, on dirt, all over the place here. But I really love that they targeted this meet, and Barkley is 14% with an almost even first off the claim run right now.
Yeah, I mean, this horse needs to take a big time step forward. And off the claim is definitely a logical angle for a lot of people for why a horse could take a step forward. But I mean, we need a 10 to 15% improvement to be competitive with this group. And even with that, I'm not sure it gets the job done. Also, just not coming out of the best races, like you said. I mean, broke its maiden at the maiden 16 claimer level, which is a pretty low level compared to the rest of these horses, and came out of a $30,000 claimer last time. But that was a mile at Churchill where if you're forwardly placed, you're consistently going to run better. And that's kind of what happened with that horse. Kind of that race seemed like it just kind of went around in a circle. So for me, I get it. But again, I felt like I had to go short here, and because of that, the 3 couldn't make the ticket. I do like the 3 more than the 4 or the 7, just because of the price. And again, this is why I didn't spread here. I didn't like a lot of these horses. I would rather just hope my opinion is right.
The other horse I used that you didn't is the 8 Southerner for Steve Asmussen. Not just the trainer, but also the owner claimed this horse with his own money from Brett Calhoun out of a $30,000 claiming race to break his maiden. Did it in the mud. We're going to be coming out of first of all, we're coming out of the mud. Second of all, the Beyer speed figures are pretty low here. But Steve Asmussen put down his own money for this horse, sends him to Oaklawn, and runs him back protected. And to me, that's a huge deal because Steve Asmussen just loved to compete. If he could just throw this horse anywhere he wanted to, if he wanted to just win. He picks this spot for this horse. He gets Ramon Vasquez. They do pretty well together. Steve Asmussen has already got 4 wins to start the meet. So I'm going to go ahead and use this horse. I'm catching a nice price like you are. And again, like you said, Mike, I don't like any of these horses really that much in here either. And I really, because of the way we both structured our tickets, we can't use short prices in every race, so this is one where we're both taking a shot.
Yeah, this was my 4th pick in this race. I would have, if I had spread more, I would have ended up using the 10 and the 8 as the other 2 horses I used, who I think is the logical speed. And the 10 and the 8 horse, it's surely because Steve Asmussen claimed this horse. It's also the 3rd time this horse would have been claimed in 5 career starts. One of the claims was withdrawn 3 back. So I'm sorry, it would have been the 2nd time. One of the claims was withdrawn 3 back for $30,000 as well. So clearly people are seeing something in this horse that they're interested in taking it. So it's interesting, especially when you see that horse win and then come back protected. Love it when a trainer like Steve Asmussen, like Joe Sharp, like Carl Broberg, when they claim and with their own money and then send the horse back protected, that tells you something. It needs to take a big step forward, though. This was one where if I was getting 15-1, I'd be a lot more interested. I think 6-1 actually might be a little bit short.
Yeah, I was surprised that he would be the same price as the 3 Shofar, for example. Did we talk about your other horse, the number 5 Outlier?
No, Outlier is the other horse I used here. This is one that just got claimed for $50,000. Goes to the Norman Cash barn, 14% off the claim. I like David Cabrera as well. This one has a bunch of tactical speed. I think Outlier is going to sit a nice trip, be able to sit right behind the 2 speeds. And this horse, look, this is another one of those horses that was supposed to be supremely talented as a 2-year-old. Sold for $375,000. Went to Steve Asmussen. He debuted at Saratoga. I actually remember this horse debuting. Then ended up in the Brad Cox barn. Goes through the Chris Hartman barn. But the horses seem to get better since the fall of this 3-year-old campaign. You kind of saw that jump up, and you've seen these low 80s, high 70s buyers that come out now. And originally we were in the 50s and the 60s, and often it takes a little bit of time for a horse to mature. And this is one of those horses where we talked about Not This Time on this show before, how good of a sire that is. It maybe just took a little bit longer for this horse to figure it out. And if that's the case, Outlier fits really well with this group. And I like the 4-1 price. I think Outlier should actually be your favorite in here. We'll see if that happens at post time. But I would if we can get 4-1, I think that's a good number on Outlier.
This is the horse that we agreed on in here. I like Outlier too for all the reasons you said. Before we move on, Dennis had a question for you. Number 2, Pat's Property. What are your thoughts on that one?
Problem with me is the barn switch. I could see why someone's interested. We're get an awful long layoff here. This horse is bicarpe diem, but switching from the Brad Cox barn and to the John Haran barn, and then picking up Har as a jockey as well, the connections drop is a little concerning for me. The 21 price is obviously pretty attractive. It's tough to figure out how this horse wins. You probably need to go wire to wire, and I'm not sure that we're good enough to do that, or we're fast enough to get the lead, to be honest.
That's my big concern that you nailed. I think that this horse that likes to sit back and stalk a little bit going into the first turn, with that draw and with so many horses in this race, I'd be really afraid that he and the one as well, if they don't gun out of the gate, they're going to get shuffled back pretty hard. So, didn't like that one. But Dennis, thanks for the question. Let us know if you have any others that you want to talk about. Maybe there's one in this race. Race 8, the third leg of the late pick 4 sequence at Oaklawn on Friday, features the return of Nashville. Last seen watching his 3-race win streak come to a screeching halt in the Grade 1 Malibu last December. He's the 7-5 favorite on the rail here. Steve Asmussen's the trainer. New jockey Florent Giroux. They're going 5.5 furlongs. It's an optional claim or sprint. This horse is nothing but speed. Problem is, Mike, there's some other horses in here with some speed too, so it's a question of how he comes in off the layoff. And like you said, you either single him here or you completely play against.
Yeah, there's really no other option. If you're going too deep and you're using him, you're long-term going to lose money on that ticket, no matter what way you slice it. Even if on this day the other horse wins, you really should be one or the other. And if you don't use Nashville, you can use 2 or 3 in here, right? You can spread on a ticket without him, because anywhere you go to get if any other horse besides him wins, there is value in that specific ticket. Fire Crow is the other logical speed. Timeform has them as both very fast. Equinedge has them both as 99 early pace figures here, which I've not seen since I started using the Equinedge pace number. So that there should be lightning out of the gate. So then I jumped over to DRF, where I do a lot of my handicapping, and I kind of went through it. Look, if this was a turf sprint, I think Fire Crow could keep up with Nashville. But this is not a turf sprint. So I'm a little concerned that Nashville is just too quick. I mean, if you look at all of Fire Crow's races, we're talking 22 and change, 44 and change, or 22 and change, 45 and change. Nashville's a 21-43 horse. Like, I'm not sure that Nashville isn't just up by 5 lengths here. And that's really the main reason why I couldn't try and fade Nashville. Because if you do, to me, what you do is you'd say, okay, Fire Crow's going to cook them. So I'm going to take, the 4 home base and the 7 Hollis, which were the 2 horses I was considering on my 50-cent ticket, to be able to come from off the pace and run down a very tired Nashville in the final furlong. I don't think Fire Crow can cook Nashville. I think Nashville's going to be clear, and if Nashville's clear, I think it's going to be awfully hard to catch him down the lane.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think you, because of what you said, you either got to stick with him or go completely against him. And yeah, I'm going to stick with Nashville. The big concern that we had with the Malibu with him was not only the distance, but he was traveling to a new track. He's been here at Oaklawn. He's been able to, acclimate to his surroundings a little bit, get in that work. That even though it wasn't that fast, at least he's here. It wasn't like a San Anita where he just dropped in and tried to race. Also ran into Charlatan that day. I don't see a Charlatan anywhere in this field. So I think we're safe to single Nashville. Realistically, what price do we get on him?
Nashville's going to go off at 2.5 or 3-5 in this field. Somewhere in that range. And it's probably fair. Nashville probably wins this race 75% of the time. The real question is whether or not Nashville, how prepared is Nashville going to be, right? Because, Dennis brings up a good point with Mr. Jägermeister as well. Mr. Jägermeister has 21 early speed. Maybe that's the horse that can try and cook here. But Mr. Jägermeister has that speed at Canterbury, not at a major track, which often the tracks play a little bit differently. So it's going to be awfully interesting to see if Mr. Jägermeister can really go out there with Nashville. To me, this is one of those where I don't see how I think this is a spot where I think Nashville is ready. And it's been so long since we've seen this horse at the track. I don't think that they're taking anything for granted, which means that you're going to have him pretty keyed up here, so you can go right into a stakes race off this.
Yep, and Oaklawn has plenty of great dirt stakes races on their slate. We'll move on to the 4th and final leg, the get out and go home leg of Friday's Lake Pick 4 at Oaklawn Race 9. A dozen maiden fillies, 3 and 4, sprinting 6 furlongs. Number 5, Salute the Flag, the 5-2 favorite for Larry Jones. Ricardo Santana Jr. on her debut last time out actually finished 3rd behind number 11, Grace's Secret, who's 7-2 on the morning line here. Definitely a lot more price options here. Lots of interesting ways to go. Where are you going on top?
I went with the first-time starter on top. I'm gonna go 2 deep here on my ticket. I'm gonna go to the 10-horse Hot Topic here for Ron McQuett. This is kind of a magic angle. loving me some 3 furlong bullet workouts right before we go into the gate. But I also really like the 4 furlong work, 6 back, where this horse was fastest of 50 horses at Churchill Downs, running a 47 flat breezing. Pioneer of the Nile, Giants Causeway, pretty good connections there. And Gary and Mary West generally enter horses where they can win. They're not messing around. The fact that we did do that 3 furlong out of a gate, 35-second work right before this tells me this horse is ready to go. Marquette, 10% first-time starters, so not wonderful, but can get him home. But he and Cabrera team up. They go 19% at Oaklawn and 24% overall. So the fact that you're getting what I believe is the kind of the go-to jockey for Marquette when you're down there at Oaklawn, and you're getting a Gary and Mary West horse who I think is going to be ready to go, tells you 6-1 is a pretty good price. Watch this one on the board as well. If this horse gets bet down to 3-1 or 5-2, somewhere in that range, this horse is going to air. Like this field is not that great, and so if this horse is the goods, the board will tell you, and the horse will win by open lengths.
You nailed my top pick here, and Dennis has a bold prediction that the 10 Hot Topics are actually going to be your favorite. Boy, 6-1. I mean, listen, we already discussed how drunk Willie was putting Nashville at just 7-5. So, he's drunk putting her 6-1. We'll see what happens with the bettors. I think my computer just died again. Great. Where are you going next here, Mike? Because we do agree on the top pick there.
For me, the other horse that I'm going to end up using is the favorite, unfortunately, here. I'm going to go to the 6 or the 5 horse Salute the Flag. That first effort, it says Stockton side chase 12 or the comments. The horse never really looked that comfortable, broke from the 2 post, which isn't that great of a spot to break, was stuck in between horses a little bit, was on the rail, never looked like, just didn't seem to get its legs under it early into that race. And once we got some room, the horse started coming, horse started to make a move. I think that's probably the best of the horses that have run. I think the reason why you're seeing correctly the price be the 5 horse being favored over the 11 horse in this spot is the 11 horse has had 6 tries and just has not gotten that much better as her career has progressed. So I'd much rather take a shot with a Larry Jones second-time starter. He's 22% with second-time starters, especially one that just didn't look like completely comfortable in that first start. I would expect a big-time step forward here from Salute the Flag. So I'm just going to go 2 deep here, go 5 in the 10. I was hoping I'd get like 5-1 on the 10. Based on the comments and your top pick too, I'm guessing I'm not getting 5-1 on the 10, but I just think these are the 2 logical horses. And I think that, I think the 9's going to take some money, but do we really want the 9? He's 0 for 14, loves running second. It's just like, it's a lot of horses in here. I just have no interest in betting.
So my next pick is the 9, Kizzy B.
Oh, no.
She's my third. No, I went 3 deep, and she's the third one I used.
Okay.
But I'll get to that. No, I went second pick. I'm actually going to go with for an even higher price here, and I got to pull it up on the screen. Number 2, High Con for Richard Baltus. I like that Baltus is trying to get this horse to win at Oaklawn. Let's be honest, the field sizes in California, especially out there at Los Alamitos, it'd be pretty easy to get this horse to break her maiden in California, but he sends her out to Oaklawn and to Churchill where the purses are a lot higher. This is $325,000 daughter of Nyquist out of a Dixie Union mare, so there's plenty of breeding there. They really believe that this horse is got the talent to get the job done. Otherwise, they would just stay in California and get an easy win with her. So I'm going to use her on a little bit of a hunch play. I think that she has tactical speed. She can sit close if she needs to. She can sit off and try and make a move. The problem is, she doesn't have a big history of passing horses. I'm hoping that change of scenery at Oaklawn is going to help, but I really do like when Baltus sends horses in from California to Oaklawn.
Okay. Good luck.
It's a 12-1 horse.
All right. Good luck.
Fine. That's Mike's way of saying that it's a terrible pick. The last one for me is the 9 Kizzy B. And the reason for this is you look at her breeding. She's by Ghost Zapper. They paid a lot of money for her. She's got a really good potential as a broodmare. Why do they keep running her? She's about to turn 5 years old. She's 0 for 14. She's hit the board 8 times, which I like. She's gotten 4 seconds on dirt in 9 tries. We're going to try fast dirt sprinting, which she really has never tried to do before. Lots of routing here. I also like that Mike Stidham keeps getting her back. They try other circuits. Nope, send her back to Mike Stidham. Try this. Nope, send her back to Mike Stidham. So we'll see what happens here. I think you think that the price is bad. I think it'll go up a little bit here from 6-1. But tell me a little bit more about Kizzy B, because you almost talked about her before.
Look, I actually picked this horse as my 3rd pick, which is one of the reasons I only went 2 deep. I don't like it when a maiden has been in the lead twice in the lane and never won. It's because it's kind of, some horses just get bored when they make the lead. Some aren't just killers. They just don't want that first position. And so when you have horses that are pushing up and trying to get to that are pushing up, passing other horses down the lane, and then someone else runs them down. It's not just once, it's twice that's happened with this horse. And you say that, okay, hit the board eight times, that's a positive. I kind of see that as a negative. Because if you've run 14 times, you've hit the board 8 times, and in 2 of those 14 starts, you've had the lead inside the 8th pole, and you've still not won a race. That tells me you are a herd animal. You're a pack animal. You're not interested in winning. You're looking for running second or third and being around your buddies, which is great. But guess what? You don't make money playing pick fours when horses run second and third. So to me, it's a tough one, because you could make an argument that the best numbers in the race are the 9, and the 9 has run the best races of any horse in this spot. But at some point, I mean, these are the ones where I'm just like, look, you can beat me. If you beat me, fine. You got me. What can you do?
I think really, though, this race is the winner is going to be a hot topic. I think we pretty much talked her into the winner's circle. Talking about anything else is just a moot point.
I am a little interested, and this is my 3rd pick, so I want to make sure I call this out. The one horse. Let's go all the way to the rail and talk about Marquise Miss a little bit, just a touch. Faced 3-0s and up the last 2 times on turf. To me, those are kind of just line through them races, right? And now we're getting back to Oaklawn Park, getting back on the dirt. The number 3 back is good enough. This horse is trying in maiden special weight again. Note that after someone claimed the horse and the claim was withdrawn, they have not put the horse back in for a tag. I think that tells you kind of what the ownership group feels about this horse. So if I was going to go one more deep, I would include the 1 Marquise Miss as well.
You're definitely getting a good price on her, 8-1 for a horse that finished 3rd, beaten 2 lengths in that race that Mike's talking about, going 6 furlongs here. Not a terrible one to use. The horse didn't scream anything to me here, but her best performance numbers-wise is when she was 17-1. But I think if you're looking for a price, I think this is a horse that I think you'll get every bit of that 8-1 for sure. That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining Mike and I to go through Aqueduct, and then also the Oaklawn Late Pick 4 sequence on Friday. Nashville returns, which we're all very excited about. If you're watching the replay or watching us live, thanks for joining us. Take a look below. We've got our tickets here. I'll start off, Mike. I'm going to go for a $5 ticket. I'm going 5 with 3, 5, 8, singling the 1, and then 2, 9, 10. That's a $45 ticket, and you're going Daddy Big Bucks for $10.
Yeah, $10 ticket. Give me 5 with 5, 6 with 1 with 5, 10. Hope we can get the. We both have the same singles, but I'm both excited and a little worried about that one. But hopefully we can get it both home. And again, you can play my ticket for $5. It'll cost you 20. You can play it for $2. It'll cost you 8. So you can really change up the denomination with however much you want to spend. But like we said at the top of the show, this is one of those where ticket construction is very important, because if you don't properly construct your ticket here and you end up 2 or 3 deep in every leg, or you go 5 deep in 2 of these legs and single Nashville, you just don't have a chance to make any money long term, because you're gonna get beat, because it just won't pay that much if it's Nashville for 50 cents, no matter who was in the other legs.
Yeah, you really got to press your opinion, which is what we're doing here. But of course, if that is too much for you, if the idea of doing a $5, $10 ticket scares you, which sometimes it can happen, play for a little sequence, whatever you feel comfortable with. Over at racingdudes.com, we got a lot of fun stuff here. That just recorded earlier today with Aaron. The way too early 2022 Kentucky Derby picks, number 2. A couple horses being shaken up there. Still pretty early, but this is a fun series that once a month, Aaron and I, at top of the month, will release this, and it'll be Aaron's top 5 picks for the Kentucky Derby as of that moment. And then each week we do a little bit closer deep dive on each of the horses that are part of his top 5 to see what we think about them. There's also the replays, and you get all of Magic's thoughts if you want them. If you want more of them, pretty much said them all here. But here on the Starlet Stakes, the Remsen Stakes, the Daniel Super Mile, we didn't talk about the Starlet because really, why? Did you have any thoughts on it?
No, I don't really want to talk about any of the horses.
That's fine. We don't have to talk any more horses at all. Thank you so much for joining us for that one. We'll talk a little bit of football because it is, what's today? Monday Night Football. We have New England at Buffalo, but we also have the college football playoffs are set. The University of Michigan Wolverines, boy, I can't believe it. They are the Big Ten champions. They're in the playoffs. Yeah, I guess that's the thing that's happening this year. What do you think about football overall from the weekend and then your Monday Night Football plays?
I thought college was great. It was fun to see Georgia get absolutely humbled by Alabama. Bama looked just better at the skill positions, and so it was interesting to watch that because we've heard so much about that Georgia defense. And that Georgia defense got absolutely lit up. I was surprised how well Michigan handled Iowa. That was a very impressive performance as well. Although I have a feeling they're going to get blown out pretty good here. And yeah, it was a fun little weekend of college football. It would have been nice if the Wake Forest Pittsburgh game had gone over and Wake Forest had scored after the first quarter, but we don't need to relive that for too long.
We're not bitter about that.
Not even a little, just a lot.
The dudes who bet sports will be on later to recap all the action more in depth and of course to talk about Monday Night Football. But do you have a thought on about New England at Buffalo? I saw you tweet about just a little bit of a weather issue at Buffalo right now.
I'm ecstatic for this game. Okay. I love bad golf, like the U.S. Open where you have like +2 wins it. That I think is awesome. We might have a kick that goes backward in this game. Okay. There are 50-mile-per-hour gusts, 20 miles per hour consistent wind. Josh Allen is refusing to wear gloves because it messes with his throwing too much. We've heard about how Mac Brown struggles with longer throws. Well, now throw a 20-mile-per-hour wind in there, see what happens. It's going to be absolute madness at the stadium. It's freezing. Okay, it is snowing. We've got the wind. There's nothing to do in Buffalo right now except drink. So the stadium is going to be going absolutely nuts. Oh, by the way, this is for the number 1 seed in the conference. This is also for the lead in the division. This is just everything you love about December football. It is just a shit show cake. It's all rolled up together and thrown out onto the stadium with all these different elements that are put into it. So I think it's going to be an absolute blast. The total started at 45.5. It's gotten bet down to 41. It was as low as 40 at one point today. I may have sprinkled a little on the first half under because I specifically like the first half in these games because a lot of times you just see just shells of the offense and defense because you don't want to make any type of mistake and give up a lead early in these games. So I sprinkled some on the first half under. I think Buffalo is able to get the job done tonight. We'll see what they're able to do, though. The one problem is that I would almost rather have snow and no wind if I'm Buffalo because New England's running game is solid. They get Landon Collins back today on the defensive side of the ball. And Buffalo just isn't as dynamic on the ground as New England can be when they get it going. And the elements are going to definitely play toward the running game. However, I think Josh Allen in these elements is significantly better than Mac Jones. I think that's a big difference. So I'm going to take Buffalo slightly, but I expect it to be low scoring, especially in the first half. They may open it up a little bit in the second half if someone gets a lead. And it could get a little funky. I wouldn't be shocked if you have multiple turnovers in this spot. But no matter what, it should be an absolute blast to watch.
Last weekend also marked the return of the Samo six-pack after a couple of weeks of time off for you doing, living a life outside of sports. How did your free picks for Week 13 go here?
Picks didn't do well. We're 1-4 this week. We've got Buffalo tonight to try and make it 2-4. Of course, the honorable mentions continue to crush. They went 2-1 and are now, I think it's 29-12 overall for the year.
Just flip them.
Yeah, just if you're betting everything, it's going well for you. So hopefully we can close it out nice here with a Buffalo -3. This is one of those spots where I would like it more if it was 2.5. If I could get that extra half point, that would be great because it's just these weather games, man, you never know. And a field goal, well, when you pick it on Thursday, seems like a lot. Kicking game may struggle tonight. Field goal may not be as easy as you were expecting. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and how the game plays out. But it's going to be a blast. I can't wait to watch this one. This is one of those I'm actually looking forward to.
35 minutes from now, Dudes Who Bet Sports will be live to lead you into Monday Night Football or however else you want to spend your evening. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon, evening with Mike and I, either watching or listening to this. You can go to youtube.com/racingdudes. You can see all of the previews, all of the race recaps that we do. Of course, all the live stream show replays will be there as well. So hit like on this video. Hit subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb 18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. It's going to be a fun week. We'll be back on Thursday. Do you know what sequence you want to do? Oaklawn's the only one out right now. So.
No, I don't. I loved Gulfstream last week. Last week was great, man. We cashed tickets Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's always nice. I'm enjoying Gulfstream so far. The synth is still we're still working on Tapita. It's still a little slow, not as much as you'd expect. It's good. It's interesting to watch the races. You definitely don't want to be on the lead. You definitely don't want to be way behind. You kind of want to be that middle pack. You see that a lot of places. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of turns out. The times have gotten better, which is interesting. So I think that the course has started to tighten up, which will, again, adjust the way that the flow of it. But it'd be nice to see once they get in full swing. Aqueduct has a carryover for the pick 6 on Friday, so I'll probably do a grid there. But they are done with turf racing for the season, so I'd say we probably don't want to go there. Probably not going to do California because Los Alamitos. So I'd say we're either Oaklawn or Gulfstream Park, one or the other.
Oaklawn, turf racing, nope. All right, so we'll see you on Thursday. We'll cover Gulfstream's late pick 4 Saturday. It'll be a fun sequence. I'm sure turf and Tapita and all sorts of things that want to screw with me. But thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you on Thursday. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Fuck Bob Baffert.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.